Hello. So, one thing that I thought before coming here to Jeju Island in South Korea was that Jeju Island itself was a very, very tiny island. So, upon being placed in Jeju Island, one of the very first things I did was to search it up on Google Maps and kind of see where it was, what it looked like, because I had actually never heard of Jeju before coming here. Um, So what I did see when I looked on Google Maps was an island that appeared to be very small. Um, the approximate dimensions of Jeju Island are 73 kilometers long by 31 kilometers wide. So yeah, it is pretty small from a global standard, I guess, of scale. Um, so for myself, I come from a small-ish town in British Columbia, Canada. When I look at my town on a map, I guess the sense of scale, at least for me, was very difficult to assess. So, what I would do is, I guess, would take the amount of time it would take to travel from one area of the map to another area of the map and kind of gauge that distance and then look at it from a bird's eye view and kind of try to understand. It sounds confusing because it is. Um, So I don't think that your actual lived experience of a town really translates well to what you are looking at on a map. And especially when you start to zoom out of your town, for example, the borders kind of become blurry. It's really difficult to tell, I guess, how large your town actually is. You kind of get lost in the sense of scale, and um, your town becomes indistinguishable from the ones next to it. Um, I guess human borders are kind of fickle like that. With Jeju, however, once you start zooming out, the borders are always visible because they're always in green and always surrounded by blue, as islands tend to be. So you always know how large Jeju is. In comparison, when I zoom out of my hometown, the borders are lost, and any sense of scale that I had becomes vulnerable to these, I guess, cognitive biases of over exaggerating or under exaggerating how large things actually are. Um, so when I zoom out of Jeju, the borders are always visible, whether it's golf ball sized, pea sized, or just a tiny speck on the globe. So before I came to Jeju, um, I was both nervous and excited about the prospect of how small I imagined Jeju to be. Um, I thought, with this, I guess, overly naive romantic view, that people are always friendlier in smaller places, and there's this sort of quaint, rustic, old timey feeling to being in more remote or smaller places. Um, Actually, arriving was a completely different experience. People are still very nice, don't get me wrong. Um, but actually, my idea of this tiny, tiny island was very flawed as it's actually quite huge. There are so many things here, be it the two chocolate museums we have, or the three sex theme parks, the two teddy bear museums, or a bevy of other equally bizarre touristy attractions. I've been here for over a year, and many of the weekends of that year were spent exploring different parts of the island, and I still feel like I have, I guess, just scratched the surface, to sound cliche, or I still feel like I have so much left to see. And I think my best indicator of the sense of how large the island is when I am sitting or standing on top of one of the island's many orums or parasitic volcanic hills, and staring out at the large expanse of land before me, that you or I really get a sense of how large this island actually is. It's quite huge. So I think that the point I'm trying to make is that expectations and reality are two entirely separate things. Coming to this island I believe to be so tiny versus viewing it on a computer, um, versus actually being here has made me realize how ridiculously gigantic this planet actually is. It's humbling, but also kind of amazing to think of how vast the Earth actually is, how much complexity and wonder, I guess to sound cheesy, the world holds. So I guess to conclude, looking at something on a screen and actually experiencing it, actually being there, touching it, are two entirely separate things. Simulation is rarely as good as the real thing. So, I guess what I can bequeath upon to you from this tiny revelation I've had about the global sense of scale is that you should get out there and experience new things, because looking at it through a computer screen is not the same thing. I guess the other thing I'm trying to say is that maps are the work of dark wizards, and do not trust them. I think that is all. Thank you for watching.